Rev up your engines!
Well, I guess old Elon doesn't care about making batteries here in the United States because Tesla's not going to build a factory in Shanghai to build giant batteries. Yes, he doesn't care about the United States and jobs and all that stuff. He's going to China where things are cheaper to do, where they got all that electric infrastructure already. They figure when they start up, they're going to make 40 gigawatts of power for batteries. That'll be a gigantic, enormous factory, right? Well, he's not following the other people that are building stuff in Clarksville, Tennessee, and different parts of the United States. I believe Ohio and stuff. Make them in China. It's cheaper there. Forget all this political baloney, follow the money. And hey, if a guy like him is buying all this stuff in China, you know what you got to do if you don't like it? Don't buy his stuff. If you don't buy it, guess what? He'll go out of business. He's selling a product, and if people don't want to buy that product, that's the end of his company. And now with electric cars, they're trying to push them all over, and there's more companies involved, and there's more competition. He's not the only one. He doesn't have his monopoly on his Tesla electric cars. There's lots of electric cars out there that are better built than the crappers he's making. It costs a lot less. So he could be rolling down the hill. They get greedy. He was the richest man in the world for a while, at least on paper, with stock. Stock. Now that he started selling it, he's not the richest guy. The company's going, the stocks are going down. We'll see what happens. And to make more money, what's he doing? He's making the batteries in China. Deck 718 says, I'm thinking about buying a Kia K5 with 60,000 miles. Is it worth buying? All right, I would say no, because that is a 1.6 liter turbo direct injection engine. Those engines have had too many problems. That's 180 horsepower. Realize, a base model Camry has 23 more horsepower than that, and it's not even turbocharged. If you're looking at a 2-liter version, sure, you might want to try that, but not that little bitty one. I'm not a fan of little bitty engines that are turbocharged with gasoline direct engines. They just wear out too fast, and Kia's got a history of engine problems to begin with. Solkind says, I got a problem with my Ford Focus transmission. I got a manual 2010 Ford Focus, 80,000 miles. I shifted, I put it in second, makes noises. Sometimes it just jumps out of second into neutral. Should I get it rebuilt? What should I do? When you're in second gear, you step on a gas and it pops out. That means your second gear shot. You'd have to rebuild the whole thing. And those are so complex. It's not worth fixing on a 13-year-old Ford Focus. You're going to find guys who want a small fortune. It costs a fortune. But I've had a lot of people, if they find a late model wreck, they will put a used transmission in, and it's not all that expensive. It would cost a fortune if you can even find someone that can rebuild that transmission. Those transmissions are so complex these days, even though they're standards. They're very complex inside. Hardly anybody knows how to rebuild them. That you're better off just trying to find a used one from a low mileage wreck and putting that in. Or, I mean, they're not the greatest cars anyways. Those Focuses, I might just get rid of it if I were you. I personally would never bought it. I definitely, if I had something like that, I'd get rid of it. I wouldn't try fixing it because you get a used one, yeah, it might work now, but it's going to break too because that's the weak point of those cars. They're not very well made. Wayne Street says, I had my wheel bearings replaced by a mechanic on my Buick, and he took a grinder when he replaced the hub. Could that throw off the torque specifications for it? Depends what he ground down. Let's say he had to get a wheel grinder and grind off the old one, where you're replacing the hub bearing assembly anyways, right? If that's the case, you don't care. But on the other hand, if he cut it and only replaced the bearing and not the whole axle assembly, yeah, he shouldn't have done that. It'll be off balance, it'll be cut, it won't be the same balance that it was before, it could shake around, might not be aligned correctly. Depends exactly what he did. But what I do in the case like that, if I got one I can't get it off, I look and I'll tell the customer, look, it's not going to come off. I can cut it off with a grinder or a torch, but then I'm just going to have to replace the whole thing. And if they say, okay, then I just take it off, throw it away, and replace the entire thing. If he did grind off a piece that he used over, he should have replaced it, not used it over. See what he ground. If he threw it away and put a new one in, you don't care. But he shouldn't have used it over then. You don't grind something, then leave it back on. You want to keep it all even. You don't want it unbalanced. Well, I'm not a fan of car inspections every year because it's just a way that they can rip you off and charge you for stuff. Well, John Mulhern sent me an email from Pennsylvania. Shows how totally ripped off they tried to get him. He takes his car for inspection in Pennsylvania, and they said, we can't pass your car because there's a hole in the muffler. Wasn't making any noise. There's a hole in the muffler, right? He said, show me. The guy shows him. In the bottom of the muffler, there's a little hole. Well, you know what it is? It's called the weep hole. And they're made with that hole in them. Basically, when you burn gasoline with this hydrogen and carbon in Earth's atmosphere, one of the byproducts is water vapor, H2O. It builds up inside the exhaust. If you didn't have that little weep hole on the bottom of your muffler, it would fill up with water and it would rot out. So that weep hole is there so that the water drains out. Now check your car in the morning. If you start it up and if it's damp in the morning, look under it. You'll see that little weep hole. There'll be a little bit of water dripping out of it. That's normal. Well, they wouldn't pass his car for the Pennsylvania inspection because gosh, got a hole in the muffler. You got to sell you a muffler. Like you said, it wasn't making any noise. It just had a hole because the weep hole was made that way. It shows you the idiots that work at these places. And after the guy explained it to him, he still said, I'm not going to pass it. He had to go someplace else, right? This is why I'm against this stuff. When you have idiots that are making money inspecting your car for safety, baloney, check it yourself. They're just trying to sell you a bunch of crap because they paid money to train their guys to get a license to be able to inspect it for the state. And you know what it is? It's a license to steal. I'm glad that I'm in Tennessee. They don't inspect cars. You do it yourself. And unless you're crazy and you want to rip yourself off, you don't have to deal with crap like this. Well, if you wonder what's happened to the factories that used to make cars in Russia, a bunch of people pulled out, Volkswagen pulled out. Well, it looks like China's going to take over the old Volkswagen factory and make cars for the Russians there. It's Chinese car manufacturer Chery. Only one are, not two. The big car manufacturer in China, and they're going to take over the Volkswagen factory and build cars for the Russians. But they're not going to be building Volkswagens. They're building their own Chery cars. Now, it's a big factory. It was making 225,000 cars a year, so... Now the Chinese are taking advantage of it. They don't care about this banning the Russian stuff. The Chinese are business people. They want to make money, and they see the Russians hardly make anything at all. Russia's a gigantic mess country. The oil money's the only thing they really got going. They really don't make hardly anything other than military weapons. I found it hilarious that there was a Volkswagen plant in Russia, seeing how the Russians hated the Germans from World War II, that they'd allow the Germans to have a factory in Russia. That kind of makes your mind spin too, you know, when old Stalin would have thought of that, you know. I guess Putin didn't care. But now the Chinese are taking over. They're going to be making cars in a Volkswagen plant, selling them to the Russians. Well, I do have to say, at least the Ram dealerships are consistent. They try ripping people off everywhere, even in Alaska, for people who work in the Air Force. And he says, Scotty, I'm an active duty Air Force stationed at Joint Base Elmendorf, Alaska. You've been spot on for years about the quality of these Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealerships. A co-worker of mine has a Ram and has been charged for services that weren't done. I told him, bring it in, we'll check it out with the mechanic here at the Air Force. Ram was charging $1,000 for brake replacements, but it turns out the brakes were perfectly fine and didn't need any work done at all. They charged her for an oil service, they didn't even change the oil filter. And it also said, oh, you need the 60,000 mile service, but she had bought it with over 60,000 miles at the dealership, which should have done the service before they sold it to her. This is Lithia Ram in Anchorage, Alaska. Thanks for your time. Okay, well, now as you can see, they rip people off. Even in Alaska, they have no ethics about this stuff. Now, I've seen that at many dealerships. It's not like this is unique. Over the years, I've seen it hundreds of times. People were told they need all this brake work. And then I'm like, well, it's safety, so bring it. Let me check it out. Okay, so I check it out. Pull off the wheels. None of the brakes are worn out. Nothing's leaking. It doesn't shake when you stop. The rotors aren't warped. It doesn't sink when you stop on the brake pedal. There's nothing wrong with these cars, yet they want to charge them thousands of dollars to do work that doesn't need to be done. And it's just typical. And in this case, they charged for changing the oil filter. They didn't change the filter. The problem with these places are they're service writers. They get paid generally a percentage of the bill. So the bigger the bill, guess what? The more money they make themselves. It's just kind of a dirty system. In this case, I mean, they were just flat out lying, saying she needed work. They did say they changed the oil filter when they didn't change the filter. It's just typical. It's kind of rotten from the bottom up and from the top down. They all are part of the system to rip people off. So if you take my advice, stay away from them. Find an honest mechanic. A guy like me, ask your friends, or in this case, if you're in the Army, take it to the mechanic on base and have them do it. Or a lot of the bases have places where you can learn how to fix it yourself, and you can do it yourself using their tools. So my grandson does. In Clarksville, they got tire machines so they can change their own tires and stuff. Hey, do that. Don't trust the people at dealerships. They got too much overhead. They're making too much profit, and they're taking it out of your pocket. Justice says, should I buy this car? It's a 2018 Honda Accord Sport with 130 automatic transmission. I'm buying it from a big Toyota dealership. Those are good cars and everything, right? And 138,000 miles, those things can go a lot longer than that. But you said it's at a Toyota dealership. Generally, the dealerships ask way too much money. You didn't give me the price, right? So I couldn't tell you whether you should buy that certain one. They are good cars. Don't trust the dealership or anybody. You still got to pay a mechanic like me to check it out. It'll have a big sign that says, as is no warranty, so you got to get a mechanic to look at it. Besides, they're a Toyota dealership. You know, they're not Honda experts. You need a guy who knows Hondas to check it out. But just on principle, the dealerships generally charge way too much money for the used car. I would look somewhere else to buy it, not at a dealership. They are good cars. They can last a long time, but they're overpriced there. And then again, it's a Honda at a Toyota dealership. They don't know anything about them. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.